Okay. Welcome everyone to Temple Concord's Havdalah with a bonus. And this evening we will begin with a story from Rabbi Rachel Esserman and then move after that into Havdalah.
Everyone, this is a folk tale that comes from ostensibly the time of King Solomon. Obviously, it's someone reaching back to talk to a story about the time of King Solomon. But there was once a really devout woman, Rebecca, who lived in Jerusalem. And every day she baked 4 loaves of bread, even though she didn't need 4 loaves of bread. Why? Because 3 of the loaves she gave to the poor who came to her door. 1 loaf of bread she kept for her family, and that's what she always did. It was enough for her family, but she had extra, so she wanted to share. One day, after she'd given the 3 loaves away, a 4th beggar came to the door. She thought, what should she do? I mean, her family wouldn't have the fancy bread, but she thought she just couldn't bear not to give it away. So she gave it to the beggar. And she saw that she didn't have any more flour, but she did have some corn. So she thought she would take the corn to the grindstone. That there's somebody else does it for cornmeal. If you know, it's very hard to do. So it's better to have someone, there's some like bakers who will do flour for you. So she took it to the seashore and she figured she would ground the cornmeal into flour and her family could have cornbread that day. That would be fine. So she put the sack of flour on her head, as she would. You know how people sometimes will carry things that it's easier that way. She began to walk to her home after the cornmeal had been ground. But suddenly a storm came up out of nowhere, and the sky was dark and the wind was blowing, and a big gust of wind whirled around her head and blew the sack away out to sea. Well, Rebecca ran towards the sea, crying, what did I do to deserve this injustice? How will I feed my family now? But the wind just swallowed her words, and the rain mixed with her angry tears. Since there was no one to hear her, she turned away from the sea and began to walk home empty-handed. On her way home, though, she decided to change directions, and she marched right up to the court of King Solomon and demanded to see the king. When the guards saw how determined she was, they brought her to the king. So she began to tell him about the sack of flour and how it had been blown out to sea. But all of a sudden, there was a great commotion, and 10 men came in to the court of the king carrying 10 sacks of gold. They said, please, king, we need to talk to you, King Solomon. We want to give these sacks of gold to the person who saved our lives. If we cannot find that person, we'll donate the gold to the poor people in the community. Well, King Solomon was listening to this with great interest, because it's not often that someone's looking to give away money to someone. So what do you mean? How did someone save your lives when you don't know who it is? Well, sir, we were sailing close to the harbor when our ship suddenly began to sink. There was a hole in the ship and water was coming in so fast that we were bound to sink, and we didn't know if we would be able to make it to shore. We would have certainly drowned if the ship had gone down. That is certain, said the second man. And the third man said, but just as suddenly the water stopped flooding in. When we examined the hole, we found a bag of flour there. The flour had mixed with the water and turned into dough. The dough plugged up the hole and stopped the water from drowning our ship. Taking the sack, King Solomon laughed out loud and turned to the woman who was standing there as still as a statue. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Rebecca, said King Solomon, would you recognize your sack? Does it have any special markings? Oh, yes, sir. She said, I always embroider my names on my sack, so there's never any question which sack belongs to me. King Solomon examined the sack, and of course, what did he find? Her embroidery. He says, is this your sack? Rebecca said, that is indeed my sack. Then King Solomon said, "It is you who deserves to receive the reward from these grateful men. Your sack of flour saved them. Without it, they would surely have drowned. Wondrous indeed are the ways of the Creator." And Solomon blessed the woman, and she returned home with a new sense of wonder and justice. And of course, being the kind of woman that she was, you know that those gold coins were going to be put to good use to be helping the poor. Now, it would be nice to believe that something like this always happens. I can't say that I always believe it does, but once in a while, there are miraculous coincidences that turn out to make us sort of wonder at the marvels of the world. So that is our story for tonight.
Good story.
Thank you. It's a nice story. I've never heard that one before. I don't know if anyone else had. So it's
Yeah,
always good.
I haven't heard it. I mean, because a lot of the stories that you see a variation somewhere else, I also have never seen that anywhere, but the particular book for folk tales, this one.
Mhm. Great. Thank you so much. I'm going to share the blessings in the chat, and momentarily I will also share the songs. I invite you, before we actually make Havdalah, to take just a few moments to think of the peacefulness, the calm, the things you were able to do to savor this Shabbat, to hold on to them for a few more moments before we say farewell to Shabbat and move into the rest of the week.
We were gonna do the foil.
And we light our candles. And I have to start a new one soon. I'm getting short again. Yeah, la 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 la. La 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 la. Yeah, la 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 la. Yeah, la 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 la. Yeah, la 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 la. Yeah, la 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 la. Yeah, la 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 la. Yeah, la 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 la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen borei peri hagafen. Ya la 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 la, la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei Mine Visamim Borei Mine Visamim. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei me'orei ha'eretz Borei me'orei ha'esh. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavdil ben kodesh l'chol ben or lechoshech ben yom hashvi'i l'sheshet yemei Hamaseh. Baruch atah Adonai Hamavdil ben Kodesh L'chol. Savor a few more moments of Shabbat peace and rest and Shlemut, completeness and wholeness. When we're ready, we put our candles out in our fruit of the vine or wine or juice. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi, Bimera v'yameinu, Yavo Eleinu, Imashiach ben David, Imashiach ben David, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi. I invite you to unmute so we can sing Shavua Tov to each other, to wish one another good weeks of peace, and that gladness and joy should increase. Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov,
Good week, a week of peace,
gladness,
joy increase. Good week, a week of peace, gladness and joy increase.
I wish everyone a Shavua Tov. And we wish everyone who is with us on Facebook, either with us live now or watching us later, a good week. And we will be back on Zoom and on Facebook next Friday evening at 7:30 and next Saturday at 7 once again as we welcome Shabbat, and then we say farewell to Shabbat. So our times here are our bookends for Shabbat.